Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the channel. You're now kicking it with Rail, who has a sports opinion. And today we will be talking about tonight's big game between Louisville and Ole Miss. So let's get right into it. Starting off with Louisville on the offensive end. Louisville is returning 7 starters. Some strengths for Louisville: quarterback play, O-line play. Those are the big strengths for Louisville as far as what they can do. The quarterback play is you have Malik Cunningham coming back. He put up big numbers last year. And you have a very experienced O-line coming back that can also provide some holes and pocket protection for Malik Cunningham and the running backs. The weaknesses on the offense: wide receiver production and running back production. Louisville lost a lot of production in the wide receiver and running back rooms last year. They do return a few players, but they did lose a lot of production. I mean, a lot of it. If we talk about key players, we're talking about quarterback Malik Cunningham. Big time guy here. Threw for 64% of his passes, 2,617 yards, 8.6 yards a pass, 20 touchdowns. He also ran for 609 yards and 7 touchdowns. The key thing with Malik Cunningham would be to cut some of the turnovers. He threw 12 interceptions and did lose 3 fumbles as well. Running back Jalen Mitchell is coming back this year. Only played 5 games last year, but he ran for 347 yards at a 6.7 per clip, 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 receptions for 33 yards. Big kid, I think 5'11", 220. Wide receiver Braden Smith is the leading returning receiver with 27 receptions, 370 yards, and 0 touchdowns. And H-back Marshawn Ford will be the second returning receiver. He's like an H-back tight end hybrid. They're going to move him all over the field. He had 25 receptions, 309 yards, and 6 touchdowns last year, so they look to build off of that. Center Cole Bentley is probably going to anchor that offensive line with 30 starts. He's very, very experienced. Like I said, that offensive line is going to be very experienced for Louisville this year. I look for their offense to pick up where they left off, just depending on the wide receiver and the running back production. We do know they have it there at quarterback, tight end, offensive line. They just need to see how the wide receivers and running backs are going to step up. For defense, as far as Louisville is concerned, Louisville is returning 6 returning starters. Some strengths for Louisville would be the run game and the pass game. On defense, these guys have improved every year. Last year, I think they were 39th nationally in total defense. They've improved every year. Didn't give up more than 200 yards passing or rushing last year. So we'll definitely see how these guys pan out this year with a lot of new faces, only returning 6 starters. Weaknesses, I would say sack production and causing turnovers. Not a lot of sack production coming back. I think only 7 sacks total coming back. Also didn't cause many turnovers last year, so they look to improve upon those numbers as well. Key players on defense for Louisville. I have DN Yaya Diaby. He won the starting position at defensive end. He only had 18 total tackles with 2.5 tackles for loss last year, but Louisville coaches and media have been raving about his play in the offseason, so he did win the starting DN job, so we'll see what he does there. Linebacker Monty Montgomery comes back with 46 total tackles last year, 7.5 for loss, 4 sacks, and an interception. And linebacker C.J. Avery comes back with 78 total tackles, 5 for loss, 2 sacks, and 1 interception. I think he's their leading tackler from last year coming back. C.J. Avery is probably their best player on defense as well. This linebacker core is probably going to be the strength of Louisville's defense. You also have in the back end cornerback Trey Clark coming back. He had 36 total tackles, 2 for loss, and 1 interception last year, so he'll be anchoring the back end as well. At cornerback, this defense, it returns some good things, like I said, at linebacker, but there's still a lot of question marks at other spots, at D-end, and on the back end as well. And so we'll see how these guys are able to adjust in this first game against Ole Miss. Now, moving on to the Ole Miss running Rebels. The Ole Miss Rebels on offense. They are returning 8 starters on offense. And the strengths I have for Ole Miss on offense would be quarterback play and running back play. The running back play and the quarterback play for Ole Miss on offense has just been very, 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 very good as of late. They do bring back all three of their top rushers from last year. Well, four of their top rushers, if you can include Matt Corral in that. And their top passer, a.k.a. Matt Corral, is coming back. So I do think the backfield is going to be the strongest suit for Ole Miss this year. Weaknesses: O-line depth, wide receiver, and tight end production. O-line depth, they lost a few players on O-line, but I just think the depth behind the starters isn't as up to par as Lane Kiffin would want in his offense. And wide receiver production and tight end production, they lost a lot in wide receiver and tight end production this year. So we'll see how those guys step up. As far as key players, quarterback Matt Corral, 70% completion of all his passes last year for 3,337 yards at a 10.2 yard per average, 29 touchdowns. He also had 506 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns as well. So that guy is a big time player. What he must cut down on is the turnovers. Threw for 14 interceptions last year. That's not going to cut it if Lane Kiffin's team wants to win some games this year in the SEC, especially in the SEC West. As far as running backs go, they bring back running back Jerrion Ealy, who was their leading rusher last year with 745 yards and 9 touchdowns. He also caught 15 passes for 155 yards and a touchdown. They also bring back Snoop Connor, who had 93 yards and 421 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns at a 4.5 clip. And they also bring back Henry Parrish Jr., who had 263 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns at a 4.7 clip. So the running back room is very, very, very stout in Ole Miss, and I do believe those guys to be a strong point. At wide receiver, you're bringing back Dontario Drummond, is the leading receiver from last year, coming back. 25 receptions, 417 yards, 16.7 yard average, and 7 touchdowns. So that's going to be probably their Matt Corral's go-to guy coming back. As far as production goes, we just need to see what those other guys can bring to the table that are going to be out there on the field with them. As far as defense goes for Ole Miss, they are returning 9 starters on defense. Some strengths on defense for Ole Miss is going to be experience. 9 starters back. These guys have played a lot of football. They did give up a lot of points last year, but that experience that they received last year should make up for that, and they should be able to come back in and make some noise this year. Linebackers are going to be a big strength for these guys. Just like with Louisville, Ole Miss brings back a lot of production at the linebacker level, and so we'll definitely take on that. Weaknesses: defensive line and DBs are going to be the biggest weaknesses for me. These guys have to step up as a collective unit. Like I said, they gave up a ton of points last year. I think they gave up over 30 points like 7 times last year. So they're going to have to step it up on the defensive end if they want to win this game against Louisville. Some key players for Ole Miss on defense. I have DN Sam Williams. Last year he had 39 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. He was their leading sack getter last year. He comes back at DN. You also have DN Cedric Johnson coming back. He only played 5 games last year, but in those 5 games, he had 7 total tackles, 3 for loss, and 3 sacks in those 5 games. If he can come back and be productive as he was in those 5 games, then we should see some step up with these guys on the D-line. At linebacker, you have Momo Sanogo. This guy, he played all 10 games last year. He had 60 tackles, 4 for loss. He had a sack, 3 pass defended. He's coming back. He's going to be a strong anchor in the linebacker core. And Lakia Henry, who came back with 62 total tackles, 5 for loss, and 2.5 sacks. He also had 2 forced fumbles. He is probably going to be the best of the linebacker crew. And then you have A.J. Finley coming back, who I think is probably going to be their best player overall on defense at free safety. He had 62 total tackles as well, 2 for loss, and 3 interceptions to go along with 7 passes defended and a fumble recovery. A.J. Finley is going to be the anchor of this defense on the back end, and I expect him to make a lot of plays, especially against a team like Louisville, who likes to move it around and throw the ball a lot. We'll definitely see him stepping up. As far as 3 keys on offense for winning for both teams, let's start with Louisville. Number 1, establish the run to take the pressure off Malik. Got to establish the run, guys. If you don't establish the run to take that pressure off Malik, then what happens is Ole Miss is able to sit back more. They don't have to send as much. They don't have to stack the box up, and then that way that lessens the passing lanes for Malik, if you will. And so yeah, establishing the run to take the pressure off Malik. If these guys can establish the run, make these guys come up, make them have to put 6, 7, 8 guys in the box, then there you go, play action, some read option actions, or some action to get the ball over the top so Malik can go ahead and do his thing. Number 2, wide receivers have to step up on offense for Louisville. You lost a lot of production at the wide receiver position. These new guys that are stepping into starting roles or stepping into rotational roles have to step up and make big plays when they are called upon. And number 3, limit the turnovers. Malik was a turnover machine last year. If he can limit the turnovers, these guys have a high ceiling. But if he does turn the ball over a lot, look for Ole Miss to capitalize. And as far as Ole Miss, 3 keys on offense. Protect Matt Corral. I'm pretty sure Louisville's going to send all kind of blitzes and all kind of schemes out of that 3-3-5 that they run. And Matt Corral is going to have to be protected and have to be kept upright and kept he can't be flustered. So Matt Corral can't be flustered and get antsy feet. We saw it last night with Jordan Travis against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's pass rush flustered Jordan Travis, and once he got flustered, his feet got happy, and he was bailing on a lot of plays where he felt pressure, but there wasn't really pressure. And so that's what's going to have to happen with Matt Corral. They're going to have to protect Matt Corral so he doesn't get those happy feet. Number 2, play Lane Kiffin ball, man. Lane Kiffin ball. Speed, up tempo, move the ball around, get going, quarterback runs here, there, and all that good stuff. They have to play Lane Kiffin ball in order to win. And number 3, limit the turnovers. I know I said this for Louisville, but for both quarterbacks, turnovers were a big thing last year and negated some of that great play that they actually did do. So Ole Miss has to have to limit the turnovers. Matt Corral, you can't throw 14 interceptions. You know what I'm saying? So just limit those turnovers. 3 keys on defense for Louisville. Number 1, sack the quarterback. Louisville has to get after Matt Corral and make his day uncomfortable. They do bring some guys back that I think are capable of doing that, and especially out of that 3-3-5, you can get a lot of different mixes and looks and blitzes and stuff like that. So yeah, they have to sack that quarterback. Number 2, create turnovers. The quarterback has shown that he's turnover prone. Why not help him? Well, why not help your team out and help create them? Create the turnovers, get the ball back to your team. I do believe that the team that wins the turnover battle tonight will win the game. So yeah, Louisville, let's just create turnovers. And number 3, make the wide receivers beat you. We know Ole Miss lost a lot of production from wide receiver, so let's make those guys beat us. Let's stack the box. Let's not let Ole Miss run the ball with their 3-headed monster, and let's make these wide receivers get over top and beat you. As far as Ole Miss goes, on 3 keys on defense. Number 1, guess what it is? Create turnovers. You got to create turnovers, man. Like I said, Malik has shown to turn the ball over. So guess what? Let's create turnovers. Let's give them some different looks, some different feel. Let's strip the ball. Let's intercept the ball. Let's create turnovers. Number 2, stop the run. Louisville's going to bring you a lot of read option and a lot of read action to that offensive game, and Ole Miss must stop the run. I feel if they can stop the run and stop the threat of the run, and that stops Malik's ability to throw the ball efficiently, because now there's not as many people in the box. There's not many people looking for the run, and now they can play the pass better. And number 3, keep Louisville behind the sticks. Louisville thrived last year when they were able to get ahead of the sticks. I say Ole Miss needs to keep them behind the sticks. You want to get them in like 3rd and 8 or more. If you can get them in 3rd, I say 3rd, 7, 3rd, 8 and more, you can keep Louisville's offense out of rhythm, and you can keep them off the field by getting stops on 3rd down. So yeah, keep Louisville behind the sticks. 2 key matchups I am looking for in this game. The first one being Louisville's DBs versus Ole Miss's passing game. Louisville's DBs are probably going to be the strength of their defense, and Ole Miss's passing game is probably going to be not the strength of their offense. So Louisville's DBs versus Ole Miss's passing game. Both of these guys have some areas that haven't been tested yet. And so what I want to see is who wins this battle. If Ole Miss's passing game can beat Louisville deep, or if Louisville's DBs can shut Matt Corral down and some of his wide receivers that don't have as much production or experience down. We'll definitely take a look and see. The second one would be Ole Miss's front seven versus Louisville's O-line. Everybody speaks about SEC's defensive lineman this and SEC's defensive lineman that. Well, we get a chance to see it here tonight. Can Ole Miss's front seven cause fits for Louisville's offensive line is what we need to look for. And now, finally, drum roll, please. I have a final score of Ole Miss taking the win 35-31. I think this will be a shootout through and through. Don't think any of these teams' defenses will have an answer for either team's offense. And I think Ole Miss squeaks it out in the fourth quarter with a last-second touchdown to win the game 35-31. You guys, please do like, share, comment, and let me know who you guys think will win tonight. And have a wonderful rest of your holiday. This is Real with a Sports Opinion, signing out.